Markets are strange places. On one hand, they're full of life, vendors shouting, mothers bargaining, the scent of spices mixed with hot fried snacks. But on the other hand, hidden behind piles of vegetables and rickety wooden stalls, are dark stories waiting to be uncovered. I have one of those stories. Not about a hero, nor just another scary tale. This is about a thug at Jawa Market. People called him Bang Suro. A simple name, but his presence was impossible to ignore. How could it be otherwise? His large, tattooed body, a raspy voice like he'd smoked not just a few, but an entire pack of cigarettes. Rumor has it he was involved in shady dealings. But who really knows the truth? I heard this story from an old vendor at the market. His name is Pak Man. He's been selling there since the market's floor was just dirt, long before it was paved and bustling as it is today. When I asked about Bang Suro, Pak Man just gave a faint smile, his eyes flickering toward a quiet corner of the market. "Be careful asking about him," he said. "Many have forgotten, but this market never truly forgets." And that's where this story begins. About Bang Suro, Jawa Market, and an event that made people afraid to even whisper his name. Sit back and relax. Because this story, it's not as simple as you might think. The first strange event happened on a gloomy morning. The market was quiet, vendors just starting to set up. Pak Man was arranging vegetables on his cart when he noticed something that made him freeze. A black cat stood in front of his stall, its eyes glowing red, like reflecting light, but there was no clear light source. The cat just stared, unmoving, its gaze fixed on Pak Man. After a long, tense moment, it darted toward the market's corner, the very spot where Bang Suro used to hang out. Pak Man felt uneasy but tried to brush it off. Just a cat, he thought. But soon after, he heard something strange. A faint, raspy chuckle with no clear source. It came from the same corner. Pak Man paused, straining to listen. But as he stepped closer, the sound vanished. The next day, things got even weirder. Stalls near that corner were mysteriously trashed, no strong wind, no signs of intruders. Goods were scattered, and even stranger, there were large muddy footprints, but only leading in one direction, with no return tracks. Pak Man grew anxious. He told a few vendors, but they dismissed it. That is, until an old vendor, Bulletin Sarmai, whispered, "Maybe it's Bang Suro's doing. He doesn't like being forgotten." From then on, the market's atmosphere changed. People spoke in hushed tones near that corner. Some claimed to see a large shadow standing there, especially at dawn or dusk. Pak Man, though skeptical of the supernatural, couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Then came the first real clue. Pak Man found something near that eerie corner, a rusted iron ring with a small initial carved inside, as it looked exactly like the ring Bang Suro used to wear. Days after finding the ring, Pak Man felt like he was being watched. Every time he passed that market corner, an unnatural chill crept over him despite the heat. His goods were often mysteriously disturbed, as if tampered with by invisible hands. One night, Pak Man decided to stay late at the market. Sitting on a small bench near his stall, he lit a cigarette and watched the corner intently. The night air grew colder, carrying a faint metallic scent. Suddenly, from the darkness, a large shadow emerged, standing still. It didn't move, just stared straight at Pak Man. Pak Man froze. Gathering his courage, he called out, "Who's there?" His voice trembled. No reply. The figure remained, then slowly started walking toward him. Heavy footsteps echoed in the stillness. As it drew closer, the dim market lights revealed more details. A large frame, an old leather jacket, and an iron ring on its finger. Its face was pale, eyes hollow, and its movements unnatural, like a puppet on strings. Pak Man couldn't move, paralyzed by fear. The figure stopped right in front of him and rasped, "Don't forget me." The moment those words were spoken, the figure vanished like mist swept away by the wind. Pak Man collapsed, gasping for breath. The next morning, the market was abuzz. A stall had collapsed without cause, and in the same spot Pak Man saw the figure. Words were scrawled in the wet dirt, "I am still here." Days passed, and Jawa Market returned to its routine. Laughter, trade, and the usual bustle resumed. But Pak Man never truly forgot what happened. Every time he passed that once feared corner, he'd lower his gaze slightly, as if silently greeting the spirit that once haunted him. But here's the strange part. Months later, Pak Man found an old coin exactly where he had buried Bang Suro's ring. It wasn't just any coin, it was rare, with historical value. Pak Man smiled quietly. Maybe this is Bang Suro's way of saying thank you, he thought. Since then, Pak Man felt no fear. He realized that sometimes, spirits don't haunt us out of malice. They just want to be heard, remembered, or even understood. The story of Bang Suro might be over, but its lesson isn't. Sometimes, what we fear isn't the ghost itself, but the memories left behind. Jawa Market stands as silent testimony that every place has a history, a story not always explainable by logic. So next time you walk through a place that feels different, maybe it's not haunted by a ghost, maybe it's just a memory waiting to be heard. Thanks for listening to my story. See you in the next tale.